Hello and welcome back to another edition of In the Paint, your weekly show talking all things high school basketball in Lorraine County. I'm Marissa McNeese with the Chronicle Telegram, joined as always by my pal Rocco Nucci of WEOL and Kristen Bauer of the Chronicle Telegram behind the camera today. And Rocco, as it is National Women and Girls in Sports Day, shout out to all the girls in sports. Let's start talking on the girls' side this week. We're going to start with the Lorraine County League with a big matchup. Firelands remaining at 10-0. They beat Columbia this week to keep that hold on first place in the conference.
Yeah, it's perfect 10-0, like you mentioned there. The Lady Falcons still rolling that rematch. It'll be a Thursday night rematch. Should be a lot of fun, no doubt. And, Firelands both impressive on the boys and the girls side this season, but have been very impressed with what the Lady Falcons have been able to do.
Especially because we mentioned, I think we talk about this every week, but in that conference on both sides, it's really talented, really balanced, a lot of good competition week in and week out. For Firelands to maintain that perfect record to this point in the season is pretty impressive.
Yeah, no question. The Lorraine County League, they kind of spoiled us this year with how tight that competition has been at the top of the conference, again, on both sides. So hopefully, again, that rematch will be just as fun.
And speaking of talent, competition, we got to talk about the Illyria Catholic girls, and something we don't usually talk about on In the Paint is a couple of losses for the EC girls. Rocco, losing to Magnificat and then losing to Bay. They're now 12-3. They've lost 2 of their last 3 games. What do we think's going on over there at EC?
Maybe it's just a lack of focus here down the stretch of the season. I know mental exhaustion can certainly set in. Or we've all been feeling it, right?
Absolutely.
Given the pandemic and COVID-19 and things just being done so differently. So, and that's a lot of pressure on those girls, too. You know, the history with that program to try and meet those expectations game after game, week after week. It's tough. It takes a toll. Just a bit of a slip up from the Lady Panthers, but I think they'll be okay moving forward.
Yeah, and that's not to take away anything from the talent on that roster. Magnificat, of course, an excellent team, and they're still 12-3. I mean, we sometimes focus on, they had that perfect record, they had that winning streak going, to the state tournament before the COVID shutdown. We look at all these things and forget, these things do happen. That doesn't take away from the level of competition they consistently play at night in and night out. And I think we're going to see Coach Rothgary and the team improve from here on out.
And that's an experienced coach at the helm, too, right? He's not going to be one that's freaking out or panicking just because they've dropped 2 out of their last 3. A bit of unfamiliar territory given the recent success, but again, they got the right leader at the helm to kind of steer the ship back in the right direction.
Absolutely. Another team we need to talk about, Rocco, on the girls' side, we don't mention a lot. You hear them all the time on the boys' side, is the Lorraine Titans picking up another win this week against Cleveland Heights. That's a team only 2-3 because with quarantine and all kinds of pauses, delays, shutdowns, they haven't played that many games. So to come back, beat a good team like Cleveland Heights, a Lake Erie League rival, is a good win for them.
Yeah, no question. And you mentioned it, just 5 total games for the Lady Titans this season. And just one of the unfortunate things with COVID-19, we've seen it with a number of different teams. This isn't uniform with how every team is able to respond. Some teams go through multiple weeks of quarantine, even upwards of a month. Some have only had to quarantine for a couple days. Right. Some have never had to quarantine throughout this entire thing. So unfortunately for the Lady Titans, they've been hit harder than others, but good to see them at least pick up a win over the past week.
Absolutely. And finally, on the girls' side, we have to mention in the SWC, Olmsted Falls still maintaining, that first place standing, but Avon right behind. Olmsted Falls 13-0, a perfect record, but Avon right behind at 9-3. Again, that's a conference. There's always, tough battles night in and night out. Anything can happen. So we're going to keep an eye on that as we get closer and closer to the postseason. But as of now, Avon just behind Olmsted Falls in the SWC at 9-3. Now, moving over to the boys' side, we started with the Lorraine County League on the girls. We have to do the same on the boys' side, Rocco, because we have officially a champion, a 2020-2021 champion of the Lorraine County League in the Keystone Wildcats, knocking off Columbia just last night in what was a really, I think everybody was really excited for that matchup, really highly anticipated. Rocco, you were in attendance calling that game for WEOL. What did you see?
Well, I'm still tired, first and foremost. That was a very fast-paced game. That's the second time I've seen the Columbia Raiders this season. And Marissa, they fly up and down that court. It was unbelievable to see how fast they played the past two outings that I've seen them. But it was Keystone who stole the show at Columbia last night. They picked up the big win, crowning themselves as Lorraine County League champs. So very well done. Congrats to Jeff Holzhauer's bunch for that. And it's just a very fun game. I mean, Ryan Walsh, just a sophomore for the Wildcats. Very impressive. Scored 22 points, had 14 in the second quarter. Really just took over when the game, was kind of in the balance. So very impressive team win for the Wildcats. Great minutes all around from everybody. It was fun to watch.
Yeah, and shout out to everybody at Columbia who put on a nice broadcast. I was able to tune in myself. It seemed like, we talked to Coach Larry Babbix on our WEOL wrap-up show a couple weeks ago, and he just mentioned this is a team, they've scored hundreds of points this season, quite literally, but they struggle with those layups and those little shots here down the stretch. And to me, towards the end of the game, that seemed to really be where they struggled. Keystone very easily getting these buckets in transition. Columbia getting to the hoop and then missing the easy layup, getting the rebound and not being able to put it back. And it just seemed maybe that's where the difference was at the end of the game.
Sure, and Columbia, very perimeter-oriented team this season, no question. I think Brandon Fisher, one of their guards, he does a great job of trying to mix it up on the inside. Got a nice amount of offensive rebounds last night for the Raiders. But again, maybe just too perimeter-oriented against a team like Keystone, who, like you mentioned, there was easy interior baskets against that Columbia defense. Columbia maybe could serve them well to be a little more patient offensively, but again, Coach Babbix's team, they like to run, they like to shoot. So again, that rematch will be on Friday. That should be another fun one.
Absolutely, and I think we can expect a really good, exciting game, despite Keystone having wrapped up the conference title. I think these teams don't take any days off, so I think we're going to see another really exciting match, Lorraine County League matchup.
Yeah, no question, and it should be a lot of fun. Hoping to see another high-scoring game.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hopefully, I'm not as tired afterwards, but I'm sure the players will be.
All right, Rocco, let's now talk about the SWC on the boys' side. And I mean, we've talked about this team every week, but how can you not? You and I talked to Amherst coach Pat Bray on Saturday for our Saturday morning sports wrap-up show. But how about these Amherst Comets at 10-2, all alone at the top of the SWC and just playing some really good basketball down the stretch?
Yeah, they've been fun to watch all season long. It was a great conversation we had with Coach Bray. You can listen to that on the WEOL website if you so choose. And they fell to Copley. They bounced right back and get a big-time win over Avon Lake. So, they've been battle-tested this year, have the Comets. It hasn't always been easy for them, but they've been very impressive, getting the job done when it's needed, and they'll be fun to watch come tournament time.
Yeah, I'm going to be really excited to see where they fall in the tournament draw and how they then square up against some of these teams, maybe some unfamiliar opponents outside the SWC. It's going to be really interesting to watch. A lot of these players, we talk about Ty Weatherspoon and all of these players for Amherst and how they maintain this pace of play down the stretch.
Yeah, and that's a great point you make there with some of the non-conference matchups with COVID-19. All we've really seen is conference battles, right? There hasn't been a whole lot of non-conference action. So tournament time, I think, will be a really good test for a lot of these teams.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's talk about, we mentioned them on the girls' side, and of course it's a team everybody has their eye on come basketball season. But let's mention Lorraine. Now, at the start of the season, when they resumed in January, they had won a handful of games right in a row on a nice little winning streak. But now at 5-4, they pick up a win over Maple Heights last night. But they've been playing without, their star, Seth Wilson, and I think it's been showing a little bit.
Yeah, we talked to Coach Rossitano about that on Saturday as well. He knows it needs to be, a next man up mentality, around the rest of the roster, and it's been up and down without Seth so far, and we'll see how they're able to kind of handle that moving forward. Similarly, to a team we mentioned earlier, they have the right guy at the helm to kind of corral things when they are facing adversity in John Rossitano. So I'm confident the Titans will be okay.
Yeah, and that's not to say there's not anyone else on that roster who can fill the void. They have a Jameer Billings, who is a really, really talented player, sometimes gets overlooked in that, he plays sometimes second fiddle to Seth, but he can score, and he's an excellent defender, really gets his hands in there in every play. Plus, you have a Cam Thomas, who scored in double figures last night against Maple. There are these other players on the roster to fill that void. It's just now finding your identity when you don't have your star sort of leading the way.
Yeah, and you still have a little bit of time to do that before these games, really start to matter. There's still a couple days here, a couple weeks before, it's elimination time once you do lose. So I'm confident they'll get things figured out.
Absolutely. All right, well, now we need to honor our first federal savings of Lorraine Teams of the Week. I'm going to let Rocco do the honors first, and he is going to talk about our girls team this week.
I will indeed, and that has to go to the Firelands Lady Falcons. They stay perfect. They get that win over the Columbia Lady Raiders in a battle of the what was previously unbeaten's. Firelands again reigning victorious after that one. So the Lady Falcons staying atop that Lorraine County League on the girls' side. They get my girls' team of the week.
And for the boys, how could we not give it to the Keystone Wildcats officially winning that Lorraine County League conference title, have played some really great basketball, sort of quietly. You know, we've talked about all the high scoring of some of these other teams, but Keystone prevails, wins that conference title, and for that, we're going to give Keystone our first Federal Savings of Lorraine Team of the Week. Well, that's going to do it for this week on In the Paint. We just had, Rocco, a girls tournament draw. The boys tournament draw is going to be coming up, so a lot still to talk about as the high school basketball season progresses. We'll have all your coverage. Make sure you're tuning in to WEOL, picking up your copy of the Chronicle Telegram every day. There's a ton of high school basketball content in there for you to keep up on all your favorite teams. And until then, we'll see you next week on In the Paint.